Yo, 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 what up, YouTube Live? Alright, let's make sure that we are live first, and then we'll get to the topic. Right now, it's Sunday, August 28th, 7 p.m., California time.
It's your home, and there's no place like Wayfair
Wait, why are there ads? Oh,
to make your reach-in closet feel like a walk-in closet.
let's see first. Okay. Alright, live. Okay, good. So, tonight is the premiere of Season 1, Episode 2 of House of the Dragon. And the title of the episode 2 is The Rogue Prince. Where's my thumbnail image here? I'm guessing the Rogue Prince is by the Rogue Prince they mean this guy right here, this dude, this thirst for power dude. I believe his name is Damien, and the brother of the king, and he's revolting, and yeah, he's gone rogue. The title is very fitting. Um, But one can also say that the princess also had gone rogue tonight. Um, by princess, I mean this lady right here. I keep forgetting their names, so I have their names right here on my IMDb. Rhaenyra Targaryen. Um, she's the one who rides the dragon, and it's awesome. Whenever she rides the dragon, it's like, oh, that's a cool sight to see. By the way, this review is mainly for those of you, my fellow House of the Dragon fans who already seen tonight's episode. So this video contains spoilers. I repeat, this video contains spoilers. So if you haven't seen tonight's episode, heads up, there are spoilers in this video. And I get it now. Now that I've seen the episode 2, it's sort of slowly coming together. By that I mean now I get some of the things that are brewing, the tension that are brewing between some of the characters, because last week I told you guys that why is Matt Smith the only asshole around? Why is this guy, Damon, is he, is the only bad guy potentially in this whole story? And but in episode 2, you can kind of see where the friction or potential friction might happen between some of the characters that are not Damon. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm getting at? For example, Rhaenyra, because she's a princess and because she's a woman, she supposedly she can't inherit, the kingdom unless she's a boy or she's a man. So they play out that dynamic again um, between her and some of the king's second and third, right hand man. Like they're trying to accommodate her, but in the back of their heads, they're like, "Oh, you're a woman, you're a girl. Like you can't, ultimately you can't really boss us around. We'll try to appease you as much as we can, but it has to be a son, it has to be a boy. That's tradition. That's how the thinking was in this era. So, and then she also has that sort of friction with man, I forgot her name again. Rhaenyra Valerian. There you go, played by Eve Best. Also, not Rhaenyra, Rhaenys. She also reminds Rhaenyra of her place. Like, hey, you gotta know your place. You're just a girl. You're a woman. Um, so that kind of stuff. It's building up. It's brewing, and as we see also at the end of this episode, you see some dark alliances forming. Between some of the potential antagonists, in addition to Damon. So okay, that's a good thing. That to me, that's a good thing because I didn't see that on episode 1. I was like, where is this? Like, it's an hour plus something kind of episode, and this is it. Sure, the jousting session was amazing, you know, um, but there's got to be more to it, and I guess our patience kind of paid off now that episode 2, like, because episode 2, tonight's episode, you got to admit, it's not action packed. It was not. There was no battle. There was no jousting. There was no, cutting open somebody's belly. There was no. the, the most shocking part was crabs eating somebody's leg, like open wound and stuff like that. Yeah. And obviously, there's another bad guy on the horizon coming. That dude who uses his nail and in that crab island that's just torturing people. That's already dying. People are already dying. So anyway, so it's not the most action packed, the most shocking, the most jaw dropping episode tonight. It was kind of, I guess the word you could put is kind of mellow. Even the tension between the Rogue Prince, Damon, and Rhaenyra on that bridge that looks like a freaking the Great Wall of China, even that got de-escalated. You're like, we're hoping, oh my God, there's gonna be something's gonna happen here. Oh, you want this egg? Haha, you can't have it. I have the egg. And it's like, oh my God, it's gonna go down. It's gonna go down on this Great Wall of China. This is it. This is it. This is it. Between Otto Hightower, there you go, Otto Hightower, the father of Alicent Hightower, and Daemon. I thought it was gonna happen, and then freaking Rhaenyra shows up majestically on her dragon, and she diffuses the situation basically, and gotta hand it to her, man. That is some set of balls on her. Maybe because she kind of rides the dragon, so she kind of like, hey, I can do something that you can't. So, and she really flexes her muscle in terms of her rank as the princess, and she knows that her uncle wouldn't lay a hand on her, and so it's a very ballsy move on Rhaenyra, and it's a shame that that time is gonna fly by, meaning there's gonna be a time jump, because if you look up IMDb here, the girl who plays Rhaenyra, the one, the blonde girl that rides the dragon, it says young princess. So she's going to be replaced by Emma Darcy. So there's going to be, Rhaenyra will be an adult in the next episode, or maybe some episodes down the road. So, and the same thing with Alicent Hightower, whom the king has picked at the end to be his next bride. And guess what? The one who played the adult Alicent Hightower is Olivia Cooke. So Emma and Olivia will be replacing Millie and Emily. I'm guessing maybe starting next week. So it'll be time jump to when they're now adults. You may have developed fandom for Millie and Emily for these roles, and that's fine. Especially Millie, she has left quite an impression on some of the fans of Game of Thrones. Like, wow, this girl's badass. She's, especially after tonight's episode. Like, wow, that is a ballsy move, and Millie really owns that role. And but we have to say goodbye to Millie and Emily soon enough, because Emma and Olivia will be replacing them as adult versions of these characters. So it's sad though. It's like, oh man, we're just getting to like them, and now we have to say goodbye to them. Oh man. Hey, Sir, I hope Daemon becomes king, or just any guy. Just not another woman, please. This is so woke already. It is very woke. It is. I'm not gonna lie to you. All right. This is a very woke Game of Thrones, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Obviously, as I mentioned in my previous review of previous episode last week, clearly George R.R. Martin and Ryan Condal, who is the showrunner, they have an agenda. They want to emphasize more on how these ladies push back on patriarchy. You know what I'm saying? How these ladies are going to push back on patriarchy. That's pretty much kind of like the themes, the running themes on last week and tonight's episode. Especially on tonight's episode when all the King's Council was like looking down on the princess. The princess had an idea. It's like, oh, what if we do this? And then they cut her off. It's like, oh, maybe the princess, would have better things to do on her hand. You're like, oh yeah, princess, let me show you to the knights. It's like, obviously there's a running theme here of an agenda of feminism or women pushing back on patriarchy, and that's what we're gonna have to kind of get used to, because I don't think it's gonna end with just tonight's episode. I think it's gonna continue throughout the whole season, at least the first season. Um, and Game of Thrones, to be fair, Game of Thrones has similar themes, but they're not so consistent about that. Game of Thrones, the power struggle in Game of Thrones is so vicious. The power struggle in Game of Thrones was so brutal and merciless and relentless and perpetual, that the whole women pushing back on patriarchy, like Arya or Sansa or any of those gals, or Daenerys Targaryen, it's kind of few far in between. You know what I'm saying? When they do push back, yeah, there's a couple of episodes about it, but then there'll be like 5 or 6 episodes of just like battles and wars and you know or stabbing or like burning at the stake or whatnot, or like persecution down, like I said, just bringing them down to heel. Whereas this one in House of the Dragon, they really put that whole theme front and center, and consistent. So yes, it's very woke. I'm not gonna lie to you, but that's what the audiences are eating up right now. They eat this shit up, and that's where the wind is blowing right now. Then they're going in that direction. So can you blame them? No, you can't. That's where the audiences are. And so a few more things about tonight's episode before I wrap up here. Like I said, come next week or the week after that, these two young ladies will be replaced by adult versions of themselves or their characters, by actresses Olivia Cooke and Emma Darcy. So we're saying goodbye to young Rhaenyra and young Alicent Hightower. The whole King Viserys having to find another wife, that was so, on tonight's episode, that was so weird, you guys. That was so uncomfortable. Like that girl that he's walking with in the park, and how she's so nonchalantly saying like, "Oh yeah, um, we can bed, or like we can sleep together after I turn 14." It's like, oh, that is so nasty. It's just like it's like that whole mindset, that whole mentality, like, oh, you gotta find an heir, you gotta find a wife, you can't be a solo king without it's just, damn, I don't know if I want that kind of life. You know what I'm saying? Even if you're the king and you have everything, you know, all the money, all the subjects, everybody like follows your orders with a snap of a finger. I don't know if I want that, because that responsibility that is forced upon you to find a wife, preferably way younger than you, that is so disturbing on so many levels. Again, that goes to the whole woke thing again, the whole women pushing back against patriarchy. I'm sorry. So when he's walking with that girl, I was like, oh no, no, this is going to some uncomfortable conversation. And you can tell King Viserys is also, I was like, oh, yeah, sorry, you're not my type, girl. Oh my God. Hey, but it's partly his fault for what he did to his own wife last week. So, like, I don't really have sympathy for him, so to speak. So, um, and the last point, the conversation on that whole Great Wall of China between Rhaenyra and her uncle, Daemon. No, I'm sorry, not Rhaenyra. I apologize. Between, let's see here, I keep forgetting the characters' names. Otto Hightower, played by Rhys Ifans, and Daemon. How Otto says like, hey, is this the road that you want to go down, like the path you want to take? Going against us, the king, and rebelling, and like, and then he said some things along the lines of like, oh look, are you? you want to die, you want your unborn child to die with that whore wife of yours. Like, oh my goodness, I gotta admit, that's some very razor sharp, some nasty dialogues between them, some nasty exchanges. And when you throw around words like, whores or unborn child will die, it's just like, you've really tried to egg on that person. You've really tried to really piss him off. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to press that buttons, and that's why I said, like, oh my God, something's gonna happen. But Rhaenyra comes in and diffuses the situation, which results in a non-action packed episode. But that's okay. Sometimes we need that, and it's the tension, building up, the friction brewing up between some of these characters. I appreciate that, because now I get that, okay, maybe so and so will also become bad, will also become an asshole. So Matt Smith will not be the only one around trying to take over the kingdom, if you will, or the Seven Kingdoms. So, lastly, some people last week, I noticed on the Twitter and some of the Game of Thrones, what do you call that? Thread, if you will, or community board online. A lot of them say, hey, you know what? I have no idea what's going on. I don't recognize any of these characters, but I'm all in 100% because I miss Game of Thrones. And so hearing composer Ramin Djawadi's music theme all again after a few years we haven't seen Game of Thrones, it just brings back good feelings. They say I'm paraphrasing, of course, like, oh, it's so good to have Game of Thrones back. I'm still not following quite exactly what's going on in House of the Dragon, but it's just so good. It's so good to have this world back. The Seven Kingdom, the Westeros, this whole world back. It's like, oh, it's so good to have that we love back again. And I get it. About those comments, I totally understand. Because even though people or fans of Game of Thrones are united in their hatred for the series finale or the final season of Game of Thrones, they still can agree on the fact that overall, that was such an epic, amazing show. You can't truly hate it, your fandom of Game of Thrones just kind of like outweighs your hatred for that series finale. So much so that now that it's back in the form of House of the Dragon, you're like, oh my God, I underestimated how I missed this show so bad. And so it's good to have it again. And I get it. I totally get it. And a lot of it, I think, it has to do with the composer, Ramin Djawadi. His music, it's like an old best friend coming back home. Like, oh my God, the music, not just the theme, but also Winds of Winter. Just hearing that again on last week's episode and on tonight's episode is just like, yes, to feel that chills again from that music is just so good. It's so good, and I'm glad Ramin Djawadi is back as the composer, because nobody can fully capture this world or this whole Song of Ice and Fire universe in music better than Ramin Djawadi. He nails it, man. He gets it. So anyway, that's it. Those are my thoughts about tonight's episode 2. Let me know what you think of it. If you have seen it as well, did you like it? Did you hate it? And what's your theory as to what's going to happen next week on the subsequent episodes? Let me know what you predict is going to happen, okay? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you, Hi Hey and JG, for tuning in. And as always, subscribe. Let's rock this.